Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 24th. We had a continuation while I was away in Rome. No surprise with that. What's interesting now is we're beginning with the slight decay in the steel. Now, this deep red becomes a short when we get that steel moving below the cyan right here. Hasn't happened. We still have rising red as well as the green. Could take out the previous pivot. And we still, if this pivot's lower, then we're going to continue to be making lower cyan pivots, which would suggest continuation to the upside with it. No concerns here within the extreme histogram. Not overbought, not oversold. Right in line. Might as well look at our 50K while we're here. Looking at the 50K, we have a little bit more weakness in this kind of blob, but we've been rising with the red and white now. Start to look like we're about to create a breakdown here. So that would be something to watch intraday. We can see that the stops have been raised now up to 1978. If we take a look at the performance report so far, we can see where the current setup is. That would certainly create new equity high from a performance report, so we'll see how it plays out for us. But all in all, it had been doing pretty decent, but this potentially has the look of breaking down. You did make a higher red pivot here, so any little move lower should still turn around and create a nice buy opportunity, but we have to watch that to see if it decays a little bit deeper. Overall, I don't have any real objection to it. Been kind of a narrow range in from the day standpoint. Came down, ended up with the nice cross buy right back over here where you pivoted up. Also, the steel moved above the cyan and took off from there. And then we ended up with successively higher red lower pivots until we ended up making a lower pivot right over here and caused the little bit of weakness that did take place. And then we reset and did it all over again. Right now you can see that we're already in a higher sphere from the 50, this 5,000 tick. So that should progress a little bit here in the after hour period. Nothing too dramatic from that standpoint. Likewise, interesting, a little bit more powerful setup here from the NASDAQ in that it could break out to the upside from the move. We just have to watch. You need to see the green move above cyan before the steel moves below the cyan, just to indicate that bulls have the strength moving forward. And then that red's got to get above zero, or it's going to make the lower pivot. Once the lower pivot's in, if we get a sell signal from there, that would be the time to get the puts as well. So kind of at a transitional point, we can see that even for the YM, it's breaking away the wrong direction with green and cyan separating. And like I said, if that steel gets below there, which could happen as early today, we'll have to see if it transitions that way. USO actually moving to more positive push to the upside here with the cyan moving below the red. Red is well below, right above the white here, so indicating bulls still in good control. We've come off of a little lax period here for bulls with the steel, but green more than took up the slack for it. Not really a danger zone or anything like that. Likewise for bonds, we still have cyan and that moving well below red, white, and green in charge. So even though you're getting these bounce, it's still a bounce to the upside. Gold, interestingly enough, producing a potential bullish turnaround here. You still have red dropping quite a bit off of the lower pivot here, but the 125 looks attractive on any dips that go below it. Purchasing moves to the back, turnaround upside. And likewise for the euro is still looking bad. Now it's funny because we go back to where we first started to capture the weakness here. It broke above with the cyan, but we were well above here on the steel, and it was when it broke down below. That was the point at which it's like, okay, now you've got real weakness, and you can see it develop as it takes place. It came down and then boom, confirmed itself right there for the short, and then it stayed, and then it got close to the potential of what could have been a buy signal, but we didn't have steel coming from underneath. And then once it separated, the exacerbated downturn, you can see that spread is significant at this particular point, and you don't have a crossover yet. So always good to be able to recognize those things as they take place. And likewise, any little weakness we saw in X was an opportunity to buy because we could see that well above the line, cyan staying far below, keeping the shorts at bay. CLF, though, this particular point had produced a pretty decent turnaround from this, overextended dip right here, but still has not recovered from that 78-minute standpoint. WLT likewise went into a sell signal and had decayed beautifully. Not done with that one yet. Though it did put in the cyan, we would expect that will close above it eventually here. You just need to turn around in the green and get above the red line. Not quite there yet. We should run through the radar screen. And I did have a good question on the radar screen. It's like, okay, I look at these numbers. What am I looking for? Well, you'd be looking for the exact same cross of the red above the green, or the green moving above. Here you have the power mo in this particular one. I'm going to change those out to reflect the exact DOC readings, just so that you'll have pretty much the ability to look at any one of these charts and see. I mean, if you have to plot them without, because it's easier to see visually, that's one thing, but having the numerics is the same equivalent. You just have to write it out or look at the relationship. Here we've put in the different configuration buys and sells. And S&P, and then we need the Dow. Really quite a mixed bag there, so I don't say that it's completely unhealthy, but you are seeing a whole lot of new sell signals. The purple, I mean, that's kind of jumps out at you when you don't see it for a while, and then it's like, well, okay, that's an indication that better be paying attention to some of the things taking place. There's Twitter. We can go back in the reverse. So we could see that had the positive signs developing from there, and the problem was that it pivoted up with the the cyan separation there. Still rising. It's going to have to get into the new zone for it to have any carry weight. So the kind of blah looks to continue from that standpoint. Yeah, that's been pretty much nothing with Tesla in this particular phase. You had the green above. You were slightly rising. Then you broke into a new zone here, which is positive. At the same time, you're getting steel rising above. So a little bit of a battle, but this now tips a little bit stronger to the bullish side because you've broken into that new zone. So I feel a little more comfortable breaking into the long side setups with that. You had a brief extension here of a little buy from Priceline, and now unfortunately it did not cross over that cyan. It always becomes a critical point. So the fact that it rose over there, but then the cyan moved higher, usually suggests that you're going to get it lower, and you're already seeing that you're almost overbought within that. So got to watch out for that kind of setup. Netflix has been more of the same. It just isn't producing anything of unique interest as the red continues to fade, not making any new highs. Had a brief stint where the green here popped up above, but once the steel moved to the negative crossover above, it kind of negated it when you didn't have any support from the red, and then it just exacerbated itself as the cyan started to rise. And so that's what you pretty much got right now. In fact, that's a new cross for additional sell signal. Google holding up pretty well despite this, but right at the crossroads here at this particular point, I would expect now with the overbought signals that I see that if I get a sell signal for weakness, that I want to take advantage of that from the short side. Don't have a whole lot as far as pullback on it, but definitely could be worth $10 or $12 within that setup. Facebook had been continuing its nice rise with that red, just keep making new highs, broke out above it the other day, right back over here, and has continued from it. Now you're a bit overbought within the configuration as it is, but don't have the steel dipping below yet, so until that happens, it's still fine to the long side. No objections with it from the earlier. And the FAS, actually that's not a good break here from the FAS standpoint. That potentially is bearish. What's holding that up is the nice rise of steel, but if steel pivots lower when you're getting this kind of separation between green and cyan, that's a problem and indicates that bears have activated a little bit stronger within that configuration. Moving on to Baidu. Yeah, that doesn't look particularly healthy now because it was doing very nicely. Cyan is rising. The steel dipping below could cause a little bit of weakness, but there's still plenty of time before that cyan gets above red. However, you do have these positive extremes that will require all the way back down to 193. And oftentimes what will happen is you get this little rise, it comes down, tests it, and it even comes back up within it. You're still making higher red pivots, so we expect overall higher. So the opportunity is on any weakness to be able to take advantage of that as long as you still have a buy configuration in place. And Amazon has been good. Potential for a little weakness to develop here. You've got a great safety zone set up with it. You've had cyan well below red white for a long period of time. This whole buy setup has been beautiful in its making. Apple, we knew there was softness, but we'd liked it all the way along here. Nice turnaround. I mean, you had the steel come from underneath and then the green pivot all at the same time. Did produce a bit of overbought within this configuration. It's been nice on the ABM support for it. So no real trauma with any of it. All in all, easy enough to follow the alerts with a lot of these setups. It's been a fairly benign market, to say the least. Will it stay that way? No way to tell unless we look at the readings, and so far they've been pretty decent, so we can't really complain. There is the potential that some weakness is developing, but what will happen is as you start to build that and the tide changes against them, then they have to cover over and you get another pop, and that's typically how it works when things are in a bullish configuration. And usually we'll see it on the broader sense in the 50K. This potentially could be a little bit of a problem, particularly if we get a dip below the red line. So we'll keep an eye out for it. As always, though, continue to look for me in the private Twitter feed and StockTwits, and trade well.